Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cosmic Conversations. I'm your host, Sheila Seppi, and I want to thank each of you for joining us. Each week, we bring you some of today's top speakers in the field of spirituality, conscious expansion, mysticism, cosmic awareness, and health and healing. So if you're not already signed up on our mailing list, please go to thegalacticalliance.org or to theconsciousawakeningnetwork.org. Now, on the Galactic Alliance, you're going to be able to find all of our replays as well as on the Conscious Awakening YouTube channel. So please check out both of these dynamic presentation formats and share it with your friends. And if you visit us on YouTube, please like and subscribe. So that's my commercial for tonight. But you can also hear us right now on Clubhouse in the Awaken Ascending Room with our beautiful host, Miss Bridget Renee Holiday. So thank you, Bridget, for helping to share all of this amazing information. But before I bring on our special guest tonight, I do want to share a couple of things with you. I want to go ahead and share my screen and let you know about a phenomenal workshop that's coming up. So tomorrow night, you will be able to join us in the Walk-In Soul Experiencers Walking into 3D conference. Now, this is the first time that this particular conference has ever taken place. And this is a new group that has formed, and their acronym is WISE, for Walk-In Soul Experiencers. Now, Walk-In Soul Experiencers are meeting on a monthly basis. So you can visit, I have a website up. It's Walk-In Soul Experiencers, just like you see it here with the hyphen. So if you go to sign up to be part of this group, you'll have to put the hyphen in. So it's walkinexperiencers.com. But if you want to register for the event, which starts tomorrow night, and I do have an agenda here somewhere that I'll share with you. But if you want to attend this tomorrow night, what I'll do is ask that you go to the Conscious Awakening Network and sign up there. So I hope you guys can see the agenda. Bridget, can you see the agenda on the screen?
I see the
anyway. Okay, you can? Okay, great. Yeah. Okay, so you see tomorrow night we're going to get started at 6:15 to 7 o'clock. We'll have an opening, and then I'm going to do a brief presentation. Then our beloved Phil Gruber will kick us off at 7 to 8 o'clock. Then we'll have questions and answers. And then Miss Stone Hobbit will also be there with us. I saw Stone here tonight. Thanks for joining. And she'll be from 8:15 to 9:15. This is Mountain Standard Time. And then we have Zion Prim, and she'll be from 9:30 to 10:30. And we will go until right around 11 o'clock because we'll have questions and answers and then closing. And then Saturday, I'll open it up. And then Miss Bridget will kick us off at 9:15. Then we have Ariana. Now, she is brand new to our scene. You're going to learn all about her. She'll be on at 10:30. Gosha Dusak, if any of you follow Cosmic Agenda on YouTube, you'll know and love Miss Gosha. She'll be on to let us know what the Tagatan Palladians are saying about walk-ins. And then she'll be followed by Marilyn Harper, and that's from 1 till 2. We have Ken Lloyd, and then from 3 to 3:45, we have Vivian Chevet. And Vivian, even though Vivian is not a walk-in, she's going to be sharing the Arcturian perspective about walk-ins. Then we have Raya Elise from 4 to 4:45, and our beloved Jody Sirota is going to end the day with her presentation and also one of her beautiful prayers and blessings. So if you have not signed up at the consciousawakeningnetwork.org, I ask that you go ahead and do that right now because you do not want to miss out on this special presentation. So what I'd like to do now is to get back to our programming and introduce our speaker for tonight, and that is Miss Elise LeBain. I hope I'm pronouncing your last name. Is it LeBain? LeBain.
Oh, you're talking to me? It's Ella LeBain.
LeBain. Okay.
Yes.
Well, I had that incorrect. So thank you so much, Ella. But Ella is an author and a native of New York City, and she was educated in Israel. Now, there she received a degree in social sciences from the Biological Research Center, where she was educated in biblical Hebrew and science. Now, while in Israel, Ella learned to read and to write Hebrew fluently and was educated in Hebrew linguistics, the root of the words. So the information would later help her to delineate within her Who's Who book series and the cast of the characters in the Hebrew Bible and how these beings are relevant to today's situation and the end time prophecies. So tonight, Ella is going to speak with us about the prophecy. She's going to talk with us about Nerubu and all kinds of exciting topics. So Ella, I'd like to go ahead and bring you up. Hello, 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 and welcome.
Hi, Sheila. Thank you for having me.
Well, it's a wonderful pleasure to have you here. I'm really excited to hear everything that you have to share. I know I had a little mini peek at the PowerPoint that you have provided for us. Ella has a phenomenal slide presentation that unfortunately it looks like getting the tip of the iceberg, but maybe we can have you back and the rest of it at a later time. But I'm so excited. I'm going to stop talking, turn it over to you so we can get started. So welcome again.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your venue here. I'm just in awe of all that you've done and accomplished, and it's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are ready. If you want to go ahead and share screen, I have that
Oh,
enabled for
sure.
you.
Okay. So I'm I'm getting a message here. Ask admin to enable meeting with AI companion. What do I do? Send request or cancel?
I have no idea. Mac, are you still on here?
I'm new at a lot of this stuff, so
Okay. Yeah,
just guide me. I'll do whatever you tell
that's
me.
okay. Just like we did before, if you just hit the share screen, it should
Okay.
pop up.
Okay. There we go.
Beautiful.
Okay.
You got it.
Well, so I've been, as I was telling you when we talked the other day, so this is a presentation that I'm going to be giving next week at Phoenix MUFON. So it's for 3 hours. So I'm going to sort of maybe go through some slides quickly and just focus on maybe Nibiru for tonight. Um,
Okay.
so so basically what we have going on, I always this whenever I present, I always ask people for their temporary suspension of unbelief, because when you're getting new information, sometimes people it can challenge what you think you've already known. So it creates a little tense. So when you just kind of like, okay, set it aside and allow for new information to come through. So I do this all the time. So because this is something that has been suppressed, um, by multiple institutions. And the truth is coming out now. So I can get more into the cover up as we maybe get, further in. So I connect dots and I make conclusions. So sometimes when you connect dots, you're like Peppy over here in the bottom left corner, and you're all over the place. And then eventually it comes together and you see the full picture at the end. So thank you for your patience in bearing with me. So basically, the past is prologue, and everything that is happening now has happened before in one form or another on this timeline. There's nothing new under the sun. And it was literally written in stone. So we have these stone bas relief, stone tablets, all over the ancient world, ancient Egypt, ancient Persia, which is today's Iran, ancient Sumer. What I've done is just kind of connected some dots here so that people can see that, you know, this is not a new event, but it is coming up on the end of this timeline. And so the timeline is the end of this processional age. So, you know, astrologically speaking, the ages last about 2,160 years, and we are coming to the end of the age of Pisces. So I know that people like to think we're in Aquarius, and in many respects, it has overlapped, and it's kind of like when the sun is coming up in the morning, it can get light about an hour before the sun actually rises, and it's the dawning, and you start to have a transition of the new day over the night. And that's kind of my analogy for how the ages transfer. Okay, so we're transitioning. So what our solar system is basically a binary system. So I'm just going to go through some of these slides. This is me, my background. I'm a retired paralegal. So I've basically used my skill set to apply to this research. So my books are pretty long because there's a lot of research, a lot of notes, a lot of bibliography, so that I can connect these dots and make conclusions for people because it's all connected. So, you know, basically, these are just sort of introductory slides that I use when I'm speaking because, you know, it's about discernment. So discernment is not only, you know, is a intellectual thing as well as a spiritual muscle. And this is something that this age, the end of this age, is something that needs to be developed, and that's because the end time prophecies are unfolding right before our eyes, and there's a lot of deception. And in order to see through it, we have to be discerning, because there's a lot of you know, truth masquerading as lies and lies masquerading as truth. So it's become challenging for people to really understand like which is which and what is what, because there's been so many manipulations. Okay. And that's on every level. Religion, you know, even the scientific community and the government, politics, etc. So suffice to say, that's kind of where I'm coming from, is to teach discernment. And, you know, there's that old Chinese saying, you teach what you need to learn. So this has been my journey. And so this is basically what I'm sharing. So I'll give you a little bit of background. I'm an experiencer. I was involved in the alien hybridization program for my whole menstrual life. And I'm now postmenopausal and out of it and proud of it. But, you know, there's a lot of different programs going on with the abductions, and the hybridization program is just one of them. It's not the whole thing. There's implantation. There's all kinds of things going on. And again, nothing new under the sun. This has been happening on our planet for millennia, and I prove that in my books. So this slide just basically is my book cover for book one, which illustrates, you know, what has been done to women for thousands of years. Mm-hmm. So, you know, these are just a collection of memes to just basically say that, you know, Earth is the platform for a clash between two kingdoms. And this is why we live in a duality here, and everyone is struggling to ascend out of that and get into oneness and harmony and all of that. But that will eventually happen at the end of the age when the kingdoms change. Okay, so we have a confluence of things happening right now. This is a chart that is in my first book that I got back in the 1990s when I was teaching classes in Florida, ETs, aliens, or angels. And this is how I was shown what was going on. And it was basically a battle between these two kingdoms, and then, of course, the alliance, which is a mixture of both. And just like with any kind of warfare, there are people on, that play both sides, or that want to create peace, or that want to, be sort of messengers. And so that's what makes it even more challenging for discernment, because you have to kind of assess, like, who these beings are, where they come from, and what their agendas are over us. And suffice to say, they've been fighting over us, Earth humans, since the beginning. But that where is the beginning? Well, according to the Sumerians, they've been here like 400,000 years. So this is where I just kind of give a little background as to where a lot of this ancient knowledge comes from, and why the earth has been separated into kingdoms. And this is how it has always been. So even though here in America, we don't think in terms of kingdoms anymore, because we broke away from the monarchy, the British monarchy, and we have our own system here. Nevertheless, the planet and how things are structured here is still involved in these kingdoms that are ancient. And the gods who belong to each of these kingdoms are still dueling over Earth and over us. So basically, the end of the age, and this is a confluence of all these prophecies, not just what is in the Judeo-Christian Bible, but it's been written down that they are scheduled, okay, for a divine appointment to return at the end of this age. So we see this message repeating over and over again. So I can conclude that there's going to be some type of confluence or conflagration or some type of battle. And we know this from the Judeo-Christian Bible that talks about this final battle. So I went back, and this is my coffee cup. I just thought it was cute because history often repeats itself, and we see it happening now during this time we're living in. But so the Anunnaki, I studied with Zecharia Sitchin, and the Anunnaki is basically a word that just means extraterrestrial. Okay, I mean, he translated it to those who came from the sky. Okay, so let's just suffice to call them extraterrestrials, because that's what they are. They had a lot of drama between them. It's kind of like a big dysfunctional family. And they all seem to be pointing in all of these reliefs. One is from Persia, one is from the ancient Sumer. This is the Judeo-Christian artwork to this winged planet or winged ship, which we call Nibiru. And the Colburn Bible is all about the passing of this system. So it's not just one.
There is something in itself.
Go ahead. Sorry. It's not just one planet. So what we're dealing with is a system. Our sun is a binary system. We weren't told this growing up. For multiple one of which has to do with the fact that the binary twin is a brown dwarf dark star, which has basically lost its ability to radiate, and it hides behind our sun for several thousand years, and then it comes around, and then we start to see it, and we've been seeing it the past 2 decades. But it's not just a brown dwarf star; it's a solar system, and it has 7 planets that orbit it. Okay, and one of the planets are elongated and stretched out and tilted, and that's Nibiru. So Nibiru passes the Earth and comes around our sun every 3,567 years, and that's Zecharia Sitchin basically determined this out of the cuneiform, which, the 3,600, but that was 3,600 lunar years, which comes down to 3,567. So we're kind of due. And one of the things that we know about this system is that it comes in through the southwest, and it comes in through the Oort cloud, and it's the opposite, okay, of everything that you ever learned or thought about how planets move. It has 2 tails, which is why it's depicted with wings, and they're comet tails. And so when it passes, the tails kind of get ahead of it. So we're already seeing the system coming in to our solar. It's intersecting in our solar system. So and one of the signs is the uptick in comets, asteroids, meteorites, fireballs. This photo in the middle, I took. I saw it with my own 2 eyes, and I clicked my camera. So they are not lens flares. And so what we're seeing every 28 days, there is a pinkish, brownish, reddish planet that seems to eclipse our sun. And this has been going on since about 2003. So the photos that I'm showing here come from the SOHO, the SDO, A1A. Basically, there's dozens of these space tech up there that is focused on the sun. So they are watching the sun, and this is public, by the way, so people can go to the website and watch. There's a 24/7 loop, and myself and other researchers watch this pretty much daily, and you can screenshot and see what's happening around the sun. So the sun is perturbed, and perturbed sounds like disturbed because it is. And the reason why our sun is so perturbed is because of this system that is pulling on it, and it's creating plasma exchanges, and it's causing our sun to belch coronal mass ejections and solar flares a little bit more than usual. Okay, so our sun is getting ready to actually have a pole flip very soon, like within the next month or two, to prepare itself for the solar cycle 24 that is coming up. And we have seen probably one of the most unprecedented solar cycles this past year. So what you're seeing in this slide are these gigantic planet that comes around our sun every 28 days. And so this is 4 times the size of Jupiter. So if you can imagine, I mean, Earth you know, next to the sun is just like a little dot. So this is huge. These are, you know, screenshots of different stages of this eclipse. So as I get further into this, I'm going to say, and I can prove with photos as well, that our the governments of this world has known about this since the 80s. There's been an official cover-up. My platform and what I have been saying is that the Nibiru cover-up and the UFO cover-up are one and the same. And the reason for it is because, you know, it's not just exoplanets. There are spaceships too. And so this is a matter of national security. In 1983, when Iris, I'm going to flip to that. So I don't know how I can do that without messing things up, but I'll just flip through. I'll get to that in a minute. But here, this is the past. So I kind of like flip back and forth between the past and the present. And so the photos on the bottom actually come from the LASCO coronagraph space telescopes. And then the stone is the past. So we're seeing these spaceships. I mean, obviously, this is not a planet. It's some type of intelligence. It's certainly not a comet. And we're seeing these spaceships show up around the sun on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. So back to the past. So the ancient Sumerians basically recorded a lot of this stuff in stone. So thankfully, we have this history to draw upon. And Zachariah Sitchin was an archaeoastronomer who had access to a lot of these artifacts that were kept in the British Museum in London. And he was able to get into and translate and decipher. And he basically authored 12 books called the Earth Chronicles. The first one is called The 12th Planet, which was all about Nibiru. So I had the privilege of meeting him and interviewing him in 1995. And we became friends, and I joined his international Bible study group. And so he has been a big influence on my work. So basically, what I have done is I have taken the ancient Anunnaki gods, and because a lot of people go like, well, who are they in the Old Testament? So basically, in a nutshell, the story is between these two brothers, Enkai and Enlil. And Enlil was the one who actually, you know, flooded the earth and wanted to destroy humans. I have traced his name through the history and how, you know, linguistics gets watered down and diluted. And he basically went from Enlil, Ilya to Allah. Okay, so if that rings a bell, there you have it. Okay, and Enkai was the brother who was the compassionate one, but he was also known as the god of mischief. But he was involved in genetic manipulations to create a new race of humans. A lot of people think that he's Yahweh. He's not. Enlil is not Yahweh. And I don't even call him Yahweh because that's not accurate pronunciation. It's Yahuwah. And Yahuwah means is connected to the Father. So Yahuwah would be more similar to Anu. So Anu was the father of the 50 great gods. And I prove this in my book because of all these scriptures in Hebrew that prove that he had this power over these other gods. And unfortunately, due to mistranslations, misunderstandings, replacement theology, anti-Semitism, the Church of Rome, etc., the English Bible does not give this information to English readers at all. Okay, it's just not there, which is why so many people who read the Bible are so confused, and they go, well, that's a contradiction. How come God says this and then he does and it's because it's a cast of characters. Okay, and it's been covered up through mistranslations. So for instance, one of the things that Sitchin was known for, and I totally agree with him on this because I learned Hebrew linguistics, is the word Elohim. And Elohim is plural for gods with an S. Now, the Hebrew language is a very specific language of physics. There's 22 cosmic fire letters. Each of those 22 cosmic fire letters are associated with the 22 main constellations. Okay, so this is kind of like, suffice to say, it's a space language. It's an extraterrestrial space language. So I have connected the dot to the ancient, okay, where it goes before Abraham, before there were Yehudim, which is where we get the word Jew from, that came from the tribe of Judah. This language went way back to the times of Atlantis, to the group of beings called the Huvids, and they were the original Hebrews. Okay, so the word Elohim, and like I said, everything is very specific. It's either plural, singular, masculine, or feminine, and that's it. Okay, there is no gray area. So Elohim is gods with an S. And unfortunately, what happens in the English translations is every time the word Elohim shows up, and it shows up like thousands of times in the Old Testament, it's written in the English as G-O-D. Okay, so when people are reading to try to get the story of what did God say, and God said this, and God said that, they think it's all the same God, and it's not. Okay, this is a pantheon. This is a group of gods. Okay, and I unpack this, especially with certain scriptures that say, well, what they were doing, what they were involved in. Like, for instance, the creation story, the entire sentence, let us make man in our image according to our likeness, is in its plurality. So this was a group of gods, not just one. So these ancient gods, so we have these exo-biblical texts, these are what I call the great rejected Jewish books. And the reason that they all got rejected was because the Church of Rome suppressed Israel, oppressed Israel, and then they basically created replacement theology, and they suppressed which was the official church doctrines of anti-Semitism, and they basically suppressed and deleted about 100 Jewish books, which has the whole story in it. It has all about, who they were, what happened, the whole cosmic drama, but it was suppressed because of the Church of Rome. Okay, so I can get into that, unpack that a little bit more. So what we do have in this Bible is Genesis 6, which talks about the Nephilim and the sons of, now it's written that it's actually B'nai Ha-Elohim, which is translated to the sons of the gods, all plural. So, people think, oh, it's like son of God. It's not singular, it's plural. It's a group of them. And in the books of Enoch, they are actually named. 200 of them pretty much landed on Mount Hermon, okay, in a rebellion against the Father God. And they raped the women of the earth. and created these, what the Bible calls Nephilim, which were hybrids, okay? And they were giants, okay? And they were miscreants. And so they were carnivorous, and they did all kinds of horrible things. And the God of gods punished everybody and said, okay, we're going to start all over again, and sent a flood. Okay. And that was basically how the first flood, which was the sinking of the civilizations of Atlantis, which corroborates with Plato's assessment of it. And it starts off in Genesis 1:1, the spirit hovered over the waters of the earth. And that was where they picked up after the first flood. Okay. So there were two floods, and then obviously the same thing happened again. They repopulated the earth. In the beginning, the humans, which I call the Evademic race, and Sitchin taught me that, was basically, Adam and Eve. They were prototypes, and everybody lived to be like hundreds of years old. So if you read the beginning of the Bible, everyone was like living to be like 900, like Methuselah was like 969. And then they started doing the same thing again. They started hybridizing and mixing species together and creating these monsters and miscreants. And this is where we have in Greek mythology, where we have all these different, the centaurs and the satyrs and all these different creatures. They really did exist. And so the gods flooded the earth again, and that was Noah's flood. So after Noah's flood was a new type of human, okay? And that's who we are. We can live on, if we take good care, up to about 120. Nobody lives to be 900 anymore. And that's because of this genetic manipulation. So what I'm showing here is that there's a difference between a name and a title. And this is what I unpack in my books to help people to discern the whole cast of characters, because God is a title, not a name. Yahuwah is a name, though, okay? And that is the name of the God of Israel, who is similar to Anu in the Sumerian, because he is the father of the gods, okay? And he also has the power to punish the gods. Okay, so Enki and Enlil are like lower gods. They're not the top god. Okay, but then he sent his son, okay, which is Yeshua or Yahushua, which is the full 7 letters, okay, in Hebrew. And it in Hebrew truncates, so we call him Yeshua. And he, believe it or not, he is throughout the entire Old Testament. Okay, and he's the one of the creator gods. He is the creator gods of us, and he's the person that came in the flesh that we call Jesus. But Jesus, the name Jesus, didn't even exist until the 1700s, because there was no J. First of all, there's no J in the Hebrew language, so that's why his name is pronounced Yeshua. And so a lot of things got distorted, watered down, mixed up. El means God, but El was also the name of a god. But El is the suffix that is at the end of all the angels. So if you get into the names of the angels, it always ends with an L, which basically means of God. So in the books of Enoch, which were suppressed, by the way, by the Church of Rome, and Enoch ascended. He did not die. I call him a frequent flyer, because he was up and down so many times, and he came as a messenger and he left pretty much 66 scrolls. We only have 3 today. So what we have of Enoch's writings seems to corroborate with parts of the Judeo-Christian Bible. What I'm showing here is just the connections to the book of Revelation, but in my book, Who Are the Angels, I have this whole chart that takes the scriptures of Enoch and matches them to the words of Christ and the words of the disciples, who basically spoke his word. In fact, the phrase "Son of Man" was coined by Enoch. Okay, so Enoch talks about the Lord of the Spirits, the end of days, and Yeshua said he's not of this world, his kingdom is not of this world, and he was coming back at the end of this age. And that is corroborated in the books of Enoch as well as in our Judeo-Christian Bible. So Sitchin interpreted a lot of these tablets, and what we have here is their star chart that basically pointed to, this is the Sumerian star map of the dark star, which we call Nemesis, and Nibiru, which is this, our binary system that intersects and comes through. So Sitchin published this in his first book, The 12th Planet. The reason why it's called The 12th Planet is because the Sumerians counted the planets from the outer edge of the solar system in. Okay, we don't do that. We count from the sun out. Okay, so that's, a lot of the timeline, the words, everything's been manipulated. So this is one of the things I do in my books, is unpack that so people could see, oh, okay, it's the same thing. So basically, this is just a map that is showing the past and when it comes through. So Immanuel Velikovsky, who was really good friends with Albert Einstein, and back in the 1950s, he wrote a book called Worlds in Collision, and this was before NASA had all the space tech. But he, through physics, determined what had happened in our solar system, and that our asteroid belt was pieces of a broken up planet, which is corroborated here in the Sumerian records and this happens because when Nibiru comes through, it's kind of a maverick, and sometimes the moons knock into each other, and there's collisions, and moons go away, planets break up. So this is our galactic history, solar system history, so to speak. So what we have coming in is, people call it Planet X, and, X can be interpreted two ways, the X factor, or X, the number 10 in the Roman numeral 10. So, and then I'm sure all of you have heard that, they demoted Pluto. And that's all part of this cover up because they want to change the order of the planet so people get confused and they don't understand what's going on, because it's part of the obfuscation that began under an executive order from President Ronald Reagan in 1983. I'm going to get to that and show you. But so this is what we're seeing come through. Okay, and we're seeing all these, there's a lot of red iron oxide. So this is back to the Sumerian tablet, and one of the things that Sitchin also uncovered was that there was a planet called Vulcan, and I found this fascinating because I found the ancient map, and that's right here in the middle, that basically has Vulcan in between the sun and Mercury. And, one of the things that I like to do is these panels called The Truth is Stranger Than Fiction, and I like to connect dots to popular science fiction, because I believe that a lot of the science fiction writers were somewhat prophetic, and that it's also part of an agenda that began in the 1950s with Majestic 12, who were these 12 generals who had to control the information. And so, and I proved this, and through scripts and everything, that some of these scripts were handed to certain directors and producers to get these concepts out to the public, because they couldn't say exactly what was going on, but they needed to prepare the public for what was coming down. So they would give these concepts and ideas to the sci-fi writers. And so back to Vulcan, I'm sure everybody's heard of Star Trek, and Spock came from the planet Vulcan. So we found that Vulcan is actually real. And also, it is an invisible planet because it can't be seen. That doesn't mean that it's invisible. It's hard to see, naturally. So this was all etched in stone. And so what I'm doing here is just connecting. This is recent. Okay, so this is from the Cactus, another one of the space telescopes, where we see this planet around our sun, and this was in September of 23. And what you see on the bottom right is an actual telescopic photo of Nibiru approaching. So we're also seeing the two suns, and again, this was etched in stone in the Sumerian tablets. This tablet here on the left basically is the story of the Anunnaki and the Ijiji uprising, and they depicted two suns, which basically is our binary solar system. But the second sun, like I said, it goes around, and it like hides behind our sun, so it's not seen all the time. But these are photos at the top that, they're not lens flares, that people have taken. The stereo ahead LASCO coronagraph 2 showed this huge planet, okay, and we see it coming around. So we have a system of 7, okay, and this, I'm basically going through, the story of the Sumerian names of, like, Enlil became Allah, Enkai is one of the Elohim. Many people have compared him to Yahuwah. Other people have compared him to Lucifer. But Yahuwah, as I was telling you earlier, is really Anu, God the Father, because Enlil and Enkai were sons, and they were rivals. And Enlil had a son named Marduk, who claims to be the Lord of Nibiru. He was Lord of Babylon. He was Lord of the Earth. And that's why where we get the word Mars from, it comes from him. So this is what I was telling you earlier about the cover-up. So this is something that I've written about in great detail. And here's a snippet of it, is that what happened in the 1980s. So this picture on the top right is the iris image, and that's the interface region imaging spectrograph, which is, iris, IRIS. And when that was received in 1982, 1983. It came from NASA and President Reagan, and that's when this executive order was done for national security. And if everyone remembers, President Reagan started the Star Wars system. So that was the strategic, yes, that was the Strategic Defense Initiative, which basically put weapons in space. And back then, the propaganda was, it was to protect us from China or Russia. But the truth of the matter is that they are preparing for a war with aliens. Okay, so when they saw this, they realized something was coming. And up until, and I proved this in my 5th book, which is all about Nibiru, that all the way through till the 80s, there was no cover up on Nibiru or Planet X. In fact, it was written about in the astronomy magazines. There was an incident that happened between Sitchin and the NASA chief astronomer, Robert S. Harrington. They had this meeting. Harrington is coming from the space telescope perspective of what they're seeing. Sitchin is coming from the past, from what was written in these stone tablets. They corroborated, they agreed, and then like less than a year after that, okay, Harrington comes down with this 50 years old, perfectly healthy, with this rare form of esophageal cancer and dies. So Sitchin was threatened, okay, after that, that if you tell, because he was giving lectures on this, and they said, if you tell anyone when this was going to happen, we were going to shut you down. So when I met him in May of 1995, and I interviewed him, and that is the number one question that everyone asks is when is Nibiru going to pass? He was always very tight-lipped about it, but he was clearly shaken. Like when you meet him, you talk to him, and you just like read the body language and the emotional stuff that is not being said. I felt that he was very tight-lipped because he was threatened, and he never ever told anyone. In fact, what he used to say was, "It's not coming in my lifetime." And he was right, because he died October 9th of 2010. So here we are. And so all these executive orders, they get sort of like rolled into the next presidents, and most of them just keep it going, okay, until Trump. All right. So Trump kind of changed this. And the reason for it is because it was embedded in Obamacare. So Trump, the first thing he did when he got into office was he gutted Obamacare, and pop, out came the gag order on talking about Nibiru. Okay, so I just thought that was fascinating. So here's what we know. Okay, we know that most of these UFOs that we're seeing around the planet is a combination of our secret space program, which is advanced aerospace technologies, along with alien and extraterrestrial ships that come and go from, get this, inside the Earth. Okay, so, but they also know that there are these ships that are coming in from this other system. And that was one of the big reasons that they covered it up, okay, the executive orders. So, as I've been showing you, these spaceships, we are seeing them in the Soho, the HelioView, the Cactus, the GOES, the A1A, Lasco, Corona, and all of this is public. So anyone here can go and look it up, and you can see the 24/7 loop on all these deep space telescopes that are focused on the sun. And here they are. Here's a map of them, and this just to reiterate how busy it is around the Earth and between the Earth and the sun, and all these different telescopes that are showing us stuff. So what I'm showing here underneath the Egyptian winged disc symbol are spaceships that showed up in the Soho, the Lasco, coronagraph C2 and C3. And it's pretty stunning, because if you scale it to the size of the sun, they're huge. Okay, these are obviously some kind of mothership, but and not isolated incidences, because we've been seeing this show up since about 2003. And I'm just connecting it to show the shape here, which is very similar to the Ahura Mazda that was etched in stone all over ancient Persia, which is today's Iran. So, this is just some more sign. This is a photo next to my book, The Heavens. This is an actual photo that shows, now Nibiru is actually gold on the inside and red on the outside. So that's why it looks red as it's coming in. And this picture that is right under that, right next to where it says the Nibiru Truth, that's an actual telescopic photo of Nibiru. And these are, these funky looking spaceships that look like, wings that we just keep seeing show up around the sun. And then on the very bottom is a photo of a sunset. And the reason why the sun is setting and giving us these winged sunsets, which are becoming very common these days all around the planet, is because of the plasma exchanges between this system and our sun. So this is a chart. Now, Harrington, remember I told you about Harrington, so they named one of the 7 planets after him. Also, Farada was named after Carlos Muñoz Farada, 1940s Chilean astronomer who accurately tracked this and predicted it. And his research is also published in my book because I'm connecting dots here. And we also have the Hopi prophecies, about the blue Kachina and the red Kachina. And so this is a 7-planet system, suffice to say. Okay, so here's some of the end time Bible prophecies. And I put this, these top 12 because it pretty much tells the story of what everyone is going through on this planet right now. And we haven't gotten to number 12 yet, but that seems to be growing, brewing. And our present disclosure era is preparing people for this. There's a lot of disinformation out there where people think that, okay, this is coming from out of space, and to some degree, yes, but before that happens, the alien reveal comes from inside the earth. And how do I know this? Because that's what the prophecies are telling us. Because a lot of these beings from the last galactic war ended up going underground. And the earth is full of 11 different dimensions. Okay, so we know that these beings actually live under our feet. And how do we know this? We're seeing them come and go out of the oceans. In fact, today's UFO disclosure era began with the famous Tic Tac video, which was the ship that was coming and going in the oceans. I do have some photos to show you. I might just speed up here. Oh, I was doing this Truth is Stranger Than Fiction, and I don't know if anybody watches the Loki series, but Loki was also an ancient Norse god, the god of mischief. He was associated with Enkai. So I thought that was interesting. And here is Marduk, that's the Sumerian, and look at his gauntlet on his left hand. Doesn't it look exactly like Thanos from Marvel? So you wonder, did these sci-fi writers do research and take that as an idea, or was it just prophetic or accidental? Or I know this is like points of discussion where people can, what do you think? But this is part of the prophecy about this tribulation period. This is a 7-year period that is going to take place, and it all coincides with the passing of Nibiru, and everything on earth gets shaken up, and there's war and tribulation all over. So this basically goes into the story, and we're getting short on time here. I'm so excited about this. Okay, so I connected Enkai, okay, and Dagon, the fish god of ancient Egypt, and Oannes, who were all these water gods. Enkai, the word Enkai, is actually a title, which means Lord of the Waters, okay? So people think that Enkai was just this isolated being, but he has replicated or reincarnated, or however you want to look at it, throughout our timeline as Neptune, as Oannes, as Dagon. And look at this in the Church of Rome. They basically adopted, that is the fish god. That's why they wear the mitars. Their whole religion is rooted in ancient Babylon. And then we also have the Hindu gods and Vishnu, and he was a fish god. And here we have the DC franchise Aquaman, which is pretty much about Atlantis and how it's like coming to rise again. So I also want to just connect a dot for all of you, because we talked about the age, the processional age, and the ages go backwards. So when we're going forward, when we do astrology, so right now we're in Scorpio, and then we go to Sagittarius, and then Capricorn, Aquarius. So the ages go backwards. So we go Pisces to Aquarius. So it's sort of a countdown, and it's 30 degrees for each sector, but it's not 1 to 30, it's 0 to 29. So 0 is that turning point. And we are right now at 3 degrees of Pisces. So we go 3, 2, 1, 0. And that is the official beginning of the age of Aquarius, because that's when our sun at the vernal equinox will rise in the constellation, in the stars of Aquarius. And that begins the Aquarian age, which lasts for 2160 years. So here's a dot for all of you. The last time we had an Aquarian age was during the civilizations of Atlantis and Lemuria. So there is no coincidence that we have Aquaman now in our culture, which is all about ancient Atlantis and stuff coming from inside the earth and under the waters. So if you haven't seen it, it's very entertaining, but it's not just about entertainment, because there's truth that is stranger than fiction that is being revealed. So I don't know if we have time. I guess we're running out of time, but this was what got me into all of this.
I am sure people are enjoying your presentation. If you'd like to go a little bit longer. If not, we can go ahead and open up for questions when you're ready, but feel free to talk a little longer if you like.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you, Sheila. Sure. I just finished a few thoughts just to kind of make it coherent, but just to kind of bring it home, what got me into this was my experience on Indian Rocks Beach in 1995. I went back there last year, and that's where I took this photo. But I saw a ship, a USO, emerge out of the Gulf of Mexico. I was 100 yards away from it. It was after sunset, and I lived on Indian Rocks Beach, so I used to go and watch the sunset pretty much every night. And the sun had gone down, the stars had come out. It was balmy. A lot of us would just hang out on the beach. It's just what I did with my neighbors. And I thought it was a pod of dolphins. I heard a lot of rumbling in the ocean, and dolphins would, often come close to shore to feed. And I thought, well, they're not dolphins. Oh my God. Oh, it can't be a whale. Whales don't come in. Oh my God, it's not a submarine. And submarines don't come so close. And then all of a sudden it merged. And it looked just like the photo that I did not take a photo because it was 1995, but didn't have a camera or a phone with me in that day. But it looked very similar to what I'm showing here. this is an actual photo that was taken by our Navy. It was released, declassified. It's taken in the Arctic in 1971, but it looked just like that. And it was silver, disc shaped. It just hovered over, it emerged. It was a lot of swooshing sounds. It was a lot of, foam, the sea foam, and it just kind of hovered over the ocean for like a minute. And then it shot up into the sky like in a second. And I watched it become like a star. Like it got as small as the star. And then I saw something in the sky, like something, it looked like it opened up some sort of portal, and it just disappeared. So that was my wake up call. That's what got me down these rabbit holes, to investigate what did I see. I learned after that, from a friend of mine who was a member of MUFON, that MUFON got 350 calls that night of other witnesses who saw this same craft from different angles on the beach. So I was not alone. And then I started doing some research and saw that this is not an isolated incident, that there's some type of portal in what we call the Tampa Triangle, which is the Gulf of Mexico and Tampa Bay. And this picture over there on the bottom right was pretty recent, last year. So these are photos from that I was telling you, from the Arctic Sea, 1971. And so, another sci-fi movie, The Abyss, which was from 1989, really gets into, what is happening under the oceans and the alien life that coexists with us. So that's why we call it the alien presence, because they live with us. And there was the famous Tic Tac video that pretty much started the disclosure era. And then I, found this, that, NASA came out with that they discovered portals around the Earth that open and close dozens of times a day. What do you know? So I kind of went down this rabbit hole of, because Sitchin talked about portals, that Jerusalem was an ancient space portal. And I thought, well, it certainly is the eye of the storm. Pretty much every kingdom or country or empire has tried to rule it over the past 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years. So they must be fighting over something. But these are all actual photos that were declassified by the U.S. Navy, that these were all taken in the Arctic Circle. And this happened just last year. Like I said, we're in disclosure, so they came out with, the mothership. I mean, they actually said it and wrote it. And so, now people, who see these things, it's kind of like we're being validated, vindicated. So we're not crazy. When people say we've seen this or we've had this experience, it's slowly being confirmed, by official sources. So, I mean, it's a pretty exciting time to be alive to watch this happen. So that sort of ends that segment. I mean, this piece goes into, more of the history, but if you want to ask questions, I'm available.
Hey, beautiful. Wow. That's pretty amazing. If you want to go ahead, and I'll go ahead and end the share screen. I don't think I can do that from my end, but one of the things that always amazes me, yes, I can do that. Let's continue. There we go. All right. Are you able to close that? There we go. All right.
So
That was an absolutely phenomenal presentation, and I am so excited that you were able to come tonight and to share that with us. There's so much more that you have to offer, so much knowledge that I definitely want to talk with you about setting, something longer up. But, with as many people that are seeing all of the craft in the sky, you would think, and with as much data that has been released, you would think that the government would just go ahead and do a disclosure. And now with, Nibiru coming within the field of vision, I even have a photo that I caught with a second planet or a second sun down in southern Colorado. Huge images of Nibiru have been plastered everywhere. And so those have been actually caught on weather cams. And so the information is out there if people want to look. My question to you is, I know Stitchin didn't answer the question, but based on all of the research that you have done, when do you believe that Nibiru will actually be in the perfect alignment with us?
Okay, well, that's a great question. So here's what I know, is that we, meaning Earth, are going to move into Nibiru's space. So as we orbit around our sun, okay, we sort of meet up with it, as opposed to Nibiru coming to us. So we can't stop our orbit, okay? Even though NASA has the DART program, which is, and they're working, 24/7 on this one, which is another sci-fi movie, which was, with Bruce Willis, Armageddon, if anyone's seen that, where they go and they blow up an asteroid to stop it from hitting the Earth. Well, one of the prophecies is, I don't know if I showed you that slide, is Wormwood, which is in Revelation, where an asteroid actually does hit the Earth and destroys 1/3 of all life and the oceans. So, and that's why it's called wormwood, because it means bitterness, and all the oceans go bitter because of the iron oxide. And so in the prophecies like Joel 2:31, which talks about the sun going black and the moon turning blood red. So I get into the weeds with this one because, a lot of these Christians have thought, oh, it's a lunar eclipse and these blood moons, but blood moons happen like clockwork. We get them every 6 months, 12 months. We get eclipses every 6 months. Sometimes if it's a total eclipse, it's a blood moon. If it's not, so it's not a regular eclipse. This is us moving through this tail of red iron oxide that causes the sun to go dark and the moon to go red at the same time. Okay, so it's like comet tails. So well, they've messed with the calendar, Sheila. I'm sure you know that, right? Yeah. Okay, that's why the Loki series is so relevant, because it's all about time travel, time variance authority. Okay, is like who controls time and how many times. And this is another prophecy, is that the end time antichrist, the final antichrist, changes the times and the seasons. Well, we've already seen that happen multiple times in our timeline. The Church of Rome has done that. We live on the Gregorian calendar, which has absolutely makes no astronomical sense whatsoever. Okay, so they've already done that. So it's really hard to pinpoint things, and then when you layer the fact that they now have CERN and they can time travel, okay, that's a thing, that they've manipulated the timeline, which is why I don't make exact date predictions. However, based on the prophetic calendar, okay, and the prophetic calendar seems to be moving along very accurately. Okay, and all eyes should be on Israel. Okay, because it all began and it's all going to end there. So we have an end time war that is unfolding as we speak. It's not going to go away. It's going to get worse. And as that happens, it coincides with the Earth going through this path of Nibiru. Now, Nibiru goes around, passes the Earth twice, because remember, it's not about us, it's about the sun. It's heading to go around the sun like comets do. And it will go around the sun, and then it will go behind the sun, and then it'll come around again. So the Earth will get it twice. Okay. And that, I connected this with actual whistleblower NASA research. This guy who basically said it's going to take about 7 years. Now, I thought, isn't that interesting? Because the Bible talks about a 7-year tribulation period where all these horrible things happen to the earth, earthquakes, and the earthquakes are happening, the volcanic eruptions are happening because of this system. Okay, so we're already in it. How long it's going to be, I would say keep your eyes on Israel, because, and let me just give you the prophecy. When all the nations of the world go against Israel, okay, then you know the end is near. Okay, and when I know you and I talked about this on the phone, and I didn't get to tell your group, but I had a near-death experience in 2010, and I saw Yeshua. And Yeshua told me to rewrite my books about aliens with him in it. So I did. And it's turned into 6 books. But what he told me was that he said, keep an eye on Nibiru, because he was coming back with Nibiru. Okay. So what do we see with the prophetic calendar? When all the nations of the world go against Israel, then you know the end is near, because nobody comes to save Israel except the Lord. So that means us, America, somehow is not in the picture at the end. And people can pontificate about how, why, what, this, that, all of that. I'll leave that up to pontificators. But the prophecy is very clear that Israel stands on its own and nobody is there to help it. And that's when the Lord returns and saves Israel in the end. And by that time, 2/3 of everybody dies and only 1/3 is left behind. That's what the prophecy says.
Awesome. Wow. Thank you for this magnificent research that you have done. It's absolutely spectacular. I want to go ahead and open up for questions. So if anyone has any questions for Ella, if you'll please go ahead and go down to the bottom of your screen and hit your reactions button with the little hand.
Sheila, mine doesn't work, but I want a question.
Okay.
Ella, this was, I mean, you know more. Have you ever met Billy Carson?
I have not, but I follow him on Instagram, so I know of his work and respect it.
You guys, wow. I mean, I thought I studied, but this is a huge amount of research. Just brilliant. I mean, wow. And very accurate. I'm very impressed. I don't have a question. I've got about 1,000 questions, but I mean, this is just brilliant. I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you for your feedback. I appreciate it.
All right, great. Okay, I see we have a hand up. Let's go ahead and lower your hand. Oops, I took you off the screen. So sorry, I didn't catch your name. But go ahead and unmute your mic. You just had your hand up.
Me?
There you go. Yes.
Well, I shared the previous comment by the previous speaker. This was truly impressive. I came with a little bit of skepticism because I have a dear colleague who's a critic of Mr. Sitchin, but you've done nobly here, and I'm a retired New York lawyer, so we have some things in common.
Really?
I do want to, yeah, I stopped practicing. My first day of work was the Attica prison riot 52 years ago, and it got worse from there, Ella. But anyway,
I hear
I
you.
have at least 10 questions, but I'm just going to limit it to one. To the extent that the object that emerged from the sea that you showed looked like Oumuamua, and to the extent that Avi Loeb wrote a paper with Sean Livingston regarding the mothership, I was struck by the fact that he's never made reference to my knowledge. Did you think that object that emerged from the sea looked like the photos that or the illustrations that have been shown about Oumuamua? You know Avi Loeb's work?
Oh, I do, and I follow and respect his
Yeah.
work very much. But no, what I saw, you're asking about what I saw?
Well, no, what the picture, the first one you showed of the Arctic 71 photo,
Oh, the
that
the
it looked
declassified.
to me,
Hmm.
yeah, it looked to me in shape to be cylindrical and long, and very similar to Oumuamua. So,
Yes.
to the extent that Loeb has never commented on the fact that, and he's talking about motherships with Sean Kirkpatrick, I
Mhm.
thought that I found that curious. So I just finished reading Interstellar. Are you familiar with his new book?
Oh, yes, yes. I haven't read it yet,
Quite,
but I'm familiar.
quite.
I know.
I've written 2 reviews. If you give me your email, I'll send you the 2 reviews. This
Oh,
is the second. I've written 2 articles reviewing the book. If you give me your email, I will send you my
sure.
reviews of it
Yeah,
if you're interested.
of course. Skypathbooks at
Say it
gmail.com.
again.
Skypath Books. That's my imprint.
I got it.
I'm self
Skypath Books. Go
at
on.
gmail.com. Or you can go to my website, anybody who, if you want to email me, and just go to my contact page at who's who in the cosmiczoo.com. And that comes straight to my email and I will respond. In answer
Oh,
to
I'm
your
good. Yeah, I
about
wrote the wrong thing down. Yeah, go on.
I yes, now I understand what you're saying. The cylinder cigar shaped, similar to that, the Oumuamua, but what I think it's a little different, and here's why, is because the Oumuamua was looked very rocky. Okay, and that was one of the points that Avi Loeb made, was that it was made to look like an asteroid, right? And but it really wasn't. And this is stuff that they do, is they camouflage themselves, and they fit in. They know how to cloak themselves in clouds. I didn't get to the part of my presentation, but I have all these pictures of ships cloaked in clouds, and how people see this all the time, hiding in the clouds, so they can cloak themselves and make themselves look like an asteroid. Or and so I think Oumuamua is a different piece than what was coming out of the ocean in the Arctic that the Navy declassified, because all of those are smooth and they're all different shapes. Yes, the cylinder, the cigar. So what I know about the cigar shaped ships is that they're carriers for the disc shaped ships. Okay, so they're like, in a sense, you can call them a mothership, because they carry the smaller flying saucer classic round ones. And depending on the size, I've heard that they can get like about a dozen in. And so when you see the cigar shaped craft, which is out there around the planet, people have seen them all over the place. That they're carriers. That's what I have heard. Okay, I've never been in one, so don't quote me. But and then if those pictures from the Arctic Circle had multiple types of ships. There were triangular ones, right? They were like almost cubic triangles, as well as the classic disc shaped, and the cylinders. So there's a confluence of things going on.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Great question. Thank you.
Yes, definitely. Good
Hey,
question.
Alicia, you have your hand up, Alicia? Hi.
Yes, hi. Hope you're well. My name is Alicia. You confirmed so much for me because I like to connect the dots with certain movies. And when I talk to people about that, they're like, wow. So I kind of talk in circles because my Mercury is in Pisces. So I definitely understand why you jump between things. But my question is kind of, yeah, my question is kind of a two-parter. I have other questions for you, but I'm being told internally to allow the answers to come to me naturally. So I'm going to reserve that for later. But it's like, when did the dinosaurs come in? Was that a real thing? And can you just touch a little bit on the flat earth theory, where that came from?
Oh, okay. Well, the flat earth, I have a big fat chapter in my 5th book, The Heavens, debunking flat earth. Okay, so that tells you where I'm coming from. Where does it come from? It comes from anti-Semitism. That's where I traced it.
Wow.
Way back. Okay, because the Jews, okay, so like Enoch, for instance, the ancient Israelites. I mean, there's several frequent flyers in the Old Testament. They're all written in my book. Elijah and Enoch were the two that never died. They ascended. They went up in craft. And Enoch, I call him a frequent flyer because he came back. He came back and forth 3 times. Okay, so, and he left. So the ancient Israelites and what's written in the Old Testament, again, a lot has been lost and diluted with mistranslations. And one scripture that flat earthers just for some reason cannot understand is the original Hebrew of that scripture in Isaiah, where it talks about how the Lord sat and looked at the circle of the earth, sat above the circle of the earth. Well, the word in Hebrew is hug, okay, which is a sphere. Hug is a modern day Hebrew word that they use for ball, okay, ball, sphere, okay. So for some reason they just twisted it around and they think it's like, oh, it's like a pizza pie or a pancake, and that's the curve that they were talking about. But you know, Elijah and Enoch and Isaiah, and they all went and they looked down and they saw that the earth was round. Okay, but besides the ancient, okay, we have the present day, okay, astronauts. We have 11 space agencies, 12 I think now, okay, and hundreds of astronauts that have been in space, that have seen the earth. Not one has returned and said, hey, by the way, the earth isn't round. It's flat. Not one. Okay, so I'm from the legal field, and in a court of law, eyewitnesses is considered legal evidence. And not only one, but hundreds all saying the same thing. So the flat earth theory is a misnomer. And so another piece that I have published as to why this is a thing now, after the Church of Rome has already, they were flat earthers because they were anti-Semites, because they wanted to replace the Jewish Bible. And for years, I mean, they hung people, they did horrible things to people that said, oh, that the earth was flat, or that we're, you know, not the center of the universe. But they've come out and corrected themselves, believe it or not. So they're not even saying that anymore. So why is this a thing now? Why is this a thing now? It's an obfuscation to cover up something that the powers that be do not want people to know. So how do they manipulate people's minds? Through cults. Okay, so the flat earth is an end times Hebrew roots cult. They are as anti-Semitic as you can be. Okay, and if you don't believe like they believe, they cut you off, you know, like Scientology. And why does the government and the CIA, this is part of a psyops, okay, psychological operation. Why did they allow it to happen? Because it serves their purpose to obfuscate something that they are protecting very, very dearly, and that is what's happening underground inside the earth. Okay, so there is a flat plane inside the earth, and these mats that they show you, and these ancient maps that say, oh, well, they made this map in 1400 or whatever, and it looks like the earth is flat, is not us. It's the inner earth. Okay, there's a whole civilization living under our feet, and they are covering that up. So they let the flat earth people go and have their, because it serves their purpose. It's very similar, and this is, you have to understand psyops to understand why they let this happen. When we landed on the moon, first of all, one thing that you can connect is that anyone who believes in a flat earth is usually a moon denier. Okay, that means they don't think anybody, they believe nobody gets out beyond the dome, like they're going to hit some kind of wall out there. Okay, nobody landed on the moon. I happen to be a witness. I worked with several of the Apollo 11 astronauts. I met them. I talked with them. Okay, and I can tell, I met Al Wharton, and I had a whole conversation with him about Zecharia Sitchin, because he loved Sitchin and he loved all this stuff. And I'm telling you, they went to the moon multiple times, and what they were covering up was the fact that they encountered aliens on the moon. So they let people run with the lie. Oh, we didn't go to the moon. It was some Stanley Kubrick film. It was all a manipulation, because it served their purpose to cover up the fact that they met aliens. Okay, and that's the same concept behind the flat Earth. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense. Thank you. Well said, well put. And so, just last thing, the dinosaurs come in before all of this. Was that real? Is that fake?
Okay, so the dinosaur, I'm sorry, I forgot that part of the question. The dinosaurs are real, okay? And this goes back to that piece of history on our timeline when the giants ruled the earth. So there was a part in my presentation, I didn't get to it, but it was all about the giants. And it's written not only in stone, but it's written in the Hebrew Bible. So, and they were giant lizards. And the word dinosaur comes from giant, terrible lizard. Okay, so they did exist, and they were destroyed, and those who didn't get destroyed went underground, just like some of the giants. And one of the things, I have a chapter in my 4th book, UFOs in Israel, but it's really about the giants in modern day Israel, okay, that are coming out of these portals. And they're coming out of portals in Israel, and they're coming out of, people have seen them in America, and there's also reports of them in Antarctica. So they live inside the earth. So the giants are connected with the giant lizards. And one more piece I'll give you is that what happened after the destruction of them, when they went underground, is that they transformed into this draconian reptilian race. Okay, and they're 9 feet tall. So to us, that's like, I'm 5.5 feet tall. So to me, that's a giant. But, there's different levels of giants. So what did they see on the moon? This is what they were covering up. So William Tompkins actually saw this. Okay, so there were 2 feeds. One feed was to the public, and the other feed was to mission control, that only those people in that room could see when Apollo 11 landed on the moon. And if you remember the story where Neil Armstrong had to take control of the module because he couldn't go on automatic, he couldn't land where they decided for him to land, on the Sea of Tranquility. And the reason for that was because he was greeted by a fleet of spaceships. And so this was seen by William Tompkins, who was in the mission control room in this live feed from the moon. And he drew it because he had this photographic memory, and he drew. I published it. I can, next time come back, I can show it to you. But he's passed now, but he became a whistleblower, and he came out with all of this. wrote a book, talked to MUFON. They named their symposium 2017 Secret Space Program on that solar eclipse, that August, remember that big total solar eclipse? He died the morning of that solar eclipse. 90, okay, natural causes. So that was his thing, was to get this out there, because that was the truth. And Neil Armstrong was threatened that if you ever said anything, they would go after his family. And because he had so much guilt, because he, his wife is divorced, he wasn't with his kids enough, he died with his secrets. But a lot of them come out and they say this. And, Buzz Aldrin, he spilled the beans a couple of times, about there is aliens. And Michael Collins, right before he died, he was posting all this stuff. I got to meet him. I got to meet Al Warden. And I got, they all went to the moon. They absolutely succeeded. And Fred Hayes, remember Apollo 13? Okay, he was the one who got sick, and they didn't actually make it to the moon, and they had to come back because they had all these, probably made a movie about him. And I said, well, why? Why do you think all these people deny that you did, that all this happened? And he told me, he said, because they can't believe that we succeeded beyond what they could imagine. And that was the truth. They really did. Because not only did they succeed in getting there, they found alien life. And that is what was been covered up. Does that make sense?
Beautiful.
Yes. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Wow. Thank you. And thank everyone so much for all of your questions tonight. They've been absolutely wonderful. I can't believe all of our time is gone, and we'll have to kind of close up. I see we have one more question, and I know it would have been a good one, but our time is up. But thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Ella, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And we'd love to have you to come back one more time. If you want to give your email address to people just in case they're just now joining us, that would be awesome.
Sure. Well, you can go to who's who in the cosmic zoo.com and just, email me through my contact page. I'll get it and I'll respond.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good to meet you all.
Yes.
Have a blessed night.
Yes, thank you so much. And I want to thank everyone for being with us, whether you're here in the audience, whether you're watching us on YouTube. I saw we have quite a few people watching also on Facebook. Thank you so much for being with us. So until we are back together again next time, namaste. Much love, everybody, and I hope you have a beautiful and blessed week. So we'll see everyone soon. Thanks so much.
God bless.
Bye-bye.